It's an unusual time on the India-China border. China is unusually and conspicuously breathing fire. India today has now accessed a video from 2 years ago, in 2015, showing our troops facing off with the Chinese. It appears to have set the tone for what we're seeing in the tri-junction of India, Bhutan and China today. Well, this only days after a 2017 video surfaced showing our soldiers facing off with the Chinese at Doklam. As China warns India that this is not 1962, is India ready for the Red Army? And the bigger question, what is the way out? Is there a way to de-escalate these unusual tensions between the two Asian giants?
To travel our area. Yeah.
This is not your.
This is not your area.
No.
This is our area.
This is our area. And you are doing recce, patrolling your area. So many people, only 10 people can do. 10 people can do recce. 10 people can do patrolling.
Why so many? Why so many?
Not so many soldiers.
An open verbal duel.
Commander, the line is very clear.
It's not clear. It's clear.
Yeah.
You have crossed it.
This is Indian territory. You are in Indian territory.
Listen.
Are soldiers confronting the Chinese army?
No road. So you making road at 30R, you making road.
This video from 2015 is yet another proof of China's dirty tricks, of how the dragon has always wanted to sneak in to others' territory.
You know good people, house.
In 2015, it was a verbal argument. In 2017, our soldiers were left with no option but to jostle, to literally push back Chinese soldiers. And while the tensions at the Indo-China border are far from easing down, Beijing has simply refused to back down on Doklam Plateau.
उनका जो मकसद है, हमको लग रहा है कि इंडिया पर प्रेशर डालने के लिए कि किसी तरह से भी ये जितना भी बॉर्डर एरिया है, इस बॉर्डर एरिया को सेटल करने के लिए जल्द से जल्द वो लोग भी चाहते होंगे.
They speak of how China continues with its aggression at the border. They do not come with the required and requisite number of officials or Jawans who need to come for patrolling. They come in huge numbers.
Not just this, China is slowly turning the entire standoff to a diplomatic face-off. On 30th of June, Defence Minister Arun Jaitley had asserted that the India of 2017 is different from what it was in 1962.
हम तैयार हैं 1962 की वो याद दिला रहे हैं.
देखिए, मैं इसके याद दिलाना है तो वो 62 की स्थिति अलग थी, 2017 का भारत और है.
Responding to this, China's foreign ministry said that even China is not the same as it was way back in 1962. China has said that the India-China-Bhutan tri-junction lies at Mount Gipmochi, while India and Bhutan say that the tri-junction lies far south. And it is in this region that China is constructing the road, triggering opposition from both India and Bhutan.
It is quite sad that these two big leaders of Asia can't come together and engage in each other and solve problems to have a much more open, optimistic future for the whole region.
While China continues its lies and more skeletons continue to tumble out of its closet, India has made it clear there will be no giving in.
No.
This is our area.
This is our area.
With Gaurav Sawant, Geeta Mohan and Anand Krishnan, Bureau Report, India Today.
So many people, only 10 people can do.
Now, one of the ways China is targeting India is with what many call its string of pearls. Beijing is encircling India by increasing its maritime presence in the Indian Ocean as well. Here's an exclusive report with fresh information accessed by India Today's Sudhiranjan Sen on how China has deployed submarines in the area, but more importantly, a show of force for the Indian Navy, which has managed to use its modern assets to keep track of every Chinese movement in the Indian Ocean.
This lurking submarine is not just another mean war machine. This is the Yuan-class conventional diesel-electric submarine deployed by Beijing in the Indian Ocean region. The 7th such submarine to be spotted since tensions escalated with China. The Indian Navy has underlined the heightened Chinese People Liberation Navy activity in the Indian Ocean region to South Block. Chinese warships and submarines in the Indian Ocean region appeared 3 years ago in 2013-14, ostensibly for anti-piracy operations in the Gulf of Aden. But from a modest beginning of a flotilla of just 3 warships, 2 destroyers and a support ship in 2013-14, more and more Chinese warships are now prowling in the waters around India.
Recently, Indian satellites and long-range maritime surveillance platforms of the Indian Navy picked up as many as 14 warships of the Chinese military in the Indian Ocean region. These include the latest Luang 3 or the Kunming class. And what is worse, along with them, there are several spy ships that are also moving around.
The silver lining, the Indian Navy is tracking every move of the Chinese Navy using satellites and long-range surveillance platforms like the US-made P-8 Eyes. The Indian Navy has been watching and recording movements of the Chinese Navy in the Indian Ocean region. The first Chinese nuclear submarine was picked up in December 2013. The Shang class, a nuclear-propelled submarine, was deployed for almost 3 months in the waters around India till February 2014. It was followed by Song-class diesel-electric submarine for another 3 months between August and December 2014. The Song-class followed by another nuclear vessel, a Han-class nuclear submarine. Last year, China deployed a nuclear submarine, a Han-class nuclear submarine, and a conventional submarine respectively. These submarines snooped around the Indian Ocean for over 6 months. Top sources have told India Today that a Chinese naval spy ship entered the Indian Ocean this month. The spy ship, equipped with sophisticated equipment, is deployed to collect electronic intelligence, among other things. It is capable of honing on electronic signals that can be returned to China for analysis. Is there a connection between the Doklam standoff and the deployment of Chinese submarines in the Indian Ocean? At the face of it, the 2 incidents aren't connected. But Beijing ensnaring India in the Indian Ocean has set off alarm bells beyond just the high seas. With Sudhir Ranjan Sen in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, the relationship between India and China is vastly different from what it is as far as India and Pakistan is concerned. You hear a lot of warmongering in the media as far as India-Pakistan is concerned. The relationship between India and China is a far more complex one. It's also more mature. There are mechanisms in place to deal with situations very much like the one that's just happened near the Sikkim border. The question now is, we know 2 things for certain. One, we know for a fact that this is an unusual occurrence. The belligerence with which India and China have been speaking to each other over the last few days makes this a conspicuously different incident from the intrusions of the past. The other thing we do know for a fact is that actual violent conflict, even war between India and China, is nearly impossible. It's so negligible as to be tending towards zero. Joining us live this evening to discuss what is the way out. How does this tension get de-escalated? We have with us KC Singh, former diplomat, Lieutenant General retired Shankar Prasad, one of India's best-known defense and military affairs analysts, Professor Kamal Chinoy, He's professor at the School of International Studies at JNU and an academic. And Anand Krishnan, our editor and correspondent from Beijing. KC Singh, if I could come to you first. As a diplomat, we've been talking for the last few days of how people are reading this current situation. I think everyone can agree that there is something unusual about the aggression, the belligerence, the language, the tone, the tonality of the things that have been said between India and China. In the past, we've seen, both countries hold a sense of measure, not too many aggressive things said, and usually things de-escalate on their own. This time we're seeing very aggressive, very pointed things that have been said between both countries. KC Singh, how do you see this playing out? How is this going to be de-escalated?
Yes, the language is different, but what the Chinese are doing, they've been doing for many years now. They've been doing in the South China Sea. Their aggression was all focused there. They've created islands. Islands are being turned into naval and military bases. What I think probably the Chinese were figuring out this time was how much support will India get from the Americans? Because I think after the Xi-Trump summit in Mar-a-Lago, they came away with the impression that they have got a transactional arrangement with US, and Trump having withdrawn from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, having basically said that he's not going to be fighting even NATO's wars for NATO. So the Chinese assumption was that this may be an isolationist US president who will not take a forward position. 16, that is when the Indian of the Bhutanese tried stopping the Chinese ingress and the coming in with the bulldozers, and then the Indian soldiers went to their rescue. Now these Indian soldiers are in that area, they are also in Bhutan, they are in Sikkim, and we occupy the heights there. I think what China is trying to do is to improve their positions in a sector which is a vital sector, by trying to occupy the Doklam Plateau, which is at a height, whereas on the Sikkim border we are controlling the heights. So this was bound to happen because they start with shepherds, come with then patrolling, and then eventually come with a bulldozer. Now the Indian argument is that with Bhutan they have two agreements of 89 and 98, saying that till they are negotiating the border, they will not try altering the status quo. With us they have an agreement of 2012. Saying the tri-junction will not be fiddled with, and nobody will try improving it. Now the point that South Bloc is making is, if you are coming with a bulldozer, then obviously you're trying to alter the status quo. So we have to stop them.
Okay, so that's what this is really about. General Shankar Prasad, can we agree that right now, even though the current standoff on the ground, is an eyeball-to-eyeball situation between army soldiers from both sides, the de-escalation, whatever happens from here on, is necessarily going to be diplomatic and not military. Am I correct?
Well, I sincerely hope so what you're saying, but that's not how I would look at it to start with. I think we need to be prepared for a worse situation. While it may be resolved diplomatically, and perhaps the Prime Minister of India is going to meet the Prime Minister of China, as your ticker is showing, in a few days in Germany, maybe it will get diffused there. But that's not the way I look at it. That's not my business. My business is to look at the current strategic and tactical situation, and which is what I want to talk about.
How much worse can it get, sir?
Our defense minister categorically stated that India is not the India of 1962, and so did then responded by China. China is not the military of 1962. Obviously, neither China is in 62 nor India is in 62. We are both in 2017. The tactics of both sides have changed. We know the new tactics that the Chinese have got of the small parties. Those waves that you used to see in 1962 is not going to happen again. The weaponry has changed. And most importantly, the leadership has changed. The military leadership has changed. Today, your military leadership is highly professional, far more professional and far more mature than what it used to be in 1962. Today's generals have got more than close to 35 years of service. Those days generals didn't have this kind of experience, this kind of education that the current generals have got. Besides that, there is massive change. There is massive change in space. There is satellite communications, there is satellite imagery, there are drones, and varieties of other things. Then there is this cyber warfare. So the whole equation between India and China is completely different. There is nobody who can say,
so it's just rhetoric then.
Now, where is our position today in Sikkim? Where is our position? Today, our position in Sikkim, let me assure you, even though I haven't been there for many years now, we have a far superior tactical position. We are far better prepared, we are far better motivated and equipped, and we have far better leadership both at the national level and at the military level. As far as the Chinese aggression is concerned, I do link the present Chinese presence in the Indian Ocean as also connected to it in some way.
Of course,
two ways. Firstly, you would recall that there is soon going to be American, Japanese, Indian naval exercise in the area.
Yes.
That's something that's worrying them.
Yes.
You are also aware of the fact there is a large size of American naval fleet, a naval armada which is pretty close to South China Sea, maybe 12 or 14 nautical miles away. That's another issue. And so when you look at the deployment of the Navy, their spy ships, their submarines, our deployments, and look at the drones that we are going to get soon. Obviously, we
we'll get back to that in just a moment. But Professor Chinoy, I want to come to you now. You know, with both sides having ratcheted up tensions with these very aggressive things that have been said over the last few days. You know, you're not in 1962, we're not in 1962. You know, the implications that have been made, the references to the 1962 war. Who do you think is at a rhetorical, diplomatic advantage at this point of time? It's clear that we have the tactical advantage physically on the ground, militarily apparently. Things have changed certainly. But as far as this argument, this ping-pong, this tu-tu-me-me that has gone on for the last few days, who's got the advantage there?
Look, as the experts have said, 1962 was another time. We didn't have a mountain brigade. We didn't have backup troops. We didn't have adequate weapons. Not warm clothes. It was something entirely different. Now, both armies have increased their militarization in terms of weaponry, tactics, and all of that. So I think that was a throwaway remark. And I think it was good that Defense Minister Jaitley just sort of brushed it off. That after all, this is 2017. But I think there is another aspect to this. The real problem the Chinese are having now is control of the South China Sea.
That's right,
And India,
which is why the exercise is troubling them.
And also because India has made an agreement with Vietnam to do prospecting in that area. So this charade that they've put up is basically to push us away from there. And to divert attention on other things. So I don't think it should be taken too seriously. After all, a mutual friend is at work there, which is Russia. And they don't want that. And possibly China is also a bit miffed that we didn't go for Obor. Because we thought it would not be in our strategic interest. So, you know, there are a number of irons in the fire. So I don't think they should take it too seriously. They know very well our capabilities and we know theirs. So you know, there's a lot of shadow boxing now.
You know, apart from the shadow boxing, I'm going to come back to you, General Prasad. But Anant, I want to come to you, you know, for your perspective from Beijing, because you've been right there, literally on the sort of front lines as far as the aggression is concerned, because you've been hearing barrages of things being said at those press briefings on a daily basis. And like you've pointed out, Anant, it's unusual. You know, usually you don't hear such specific, explicit, you know, threatening things being said. You know, sometimes you hear them from India. You certainly don't hear them from China in this sense. You know, like KC Singh said, they speak through their actions, submarines and their deployments and, you know, brute force being projected. But the words and the tone have completely set things apart, which is why people are wondering what's the way down from this, Anant.
Well, that's right, Shiv. In previous incidents which we had on the Western sector, our problem in Beijing always was getting any information from the Chinese. But the last 10 days has been quite the opposite. They've been putting out maps and photographs and everything that they have. And what they're saying is they look at this as qualitatively different because this incident wasn't in the Western sector or the Eastern sector where the boundary isn't defined. But this happened in territory that India and Bhutan see as Bhutan's and China sees as China's. And I think they resent the fact that India stepped in when China was probably testing, some would say bullying Bhutan by building a road. And I think this reflects China's anger at the fact that maybe they miscalculated, maybe they thought India wouldn't step in, but it's precisely what India did to prevent China from altering the status quo in a very important region. So I think that sort of explains why they've taken this very unusual step of being so publicly angry about it. But as you rightly pointed out, that might narrow the space for de-escalation, given that China has publicly whipped up quite a bit of a storm about this standoff incident.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this could be China's counter to that. The Obor boycott, several other issues as well. The Malabar exercises, composite sort of combination of many of these factors, including the Xi-Trump transactional relationship expectations, etc. But for the remainder of this show, for the last few minutes, I'm going to appeal to each of you gentlemen to actually put on your expert hats as advisors. Now, I know none of you would presume to advise the government, but for the purposes of this show, starting with you, KC Singh, if you could, if you were in charge of this situation right now, or were advising the External Affairs Ministry or the government at this point of time, give us a sort of brief checklist of things that you think ought to be done. What kind of approach would you use right now, KC Singh?
See, China is doing 2-3 things. One is the rhetoric, second, which is trying to provoke, second is throwing old treaties, agreements, maps, usual thing, constructing history. Now, you don't want to get into an argument on that. I think South Bloc is doing it right. They're keeping their temper down, they're keeping their rhetoric low, because the more rhetorical you get, the more difficult it becomes for Chinese to back off.
Right.
So let them expend their steam. Stay firm. After all, don't forget, in the same area, in 1987, we had what is called Operation Falcon, where Sundarji was able to outflank them, and then the Chinese quietly withdrew. So leave the Chinese, give Chinese space. I think the problem that Xi will have is, he's got his Congress coming up later this year, the 5-yearly Congress, which is extremely important for him because they'll decide the future composition of Chinese leadership and his extension and whether he stays beyond 10 years. Now, he doesn't want to push the PLA or see PLA embarrassed or pull the PLA back at this stage. So he'll have to find some pretext for doing that. In any case, there'll be winter coming up, another 4-5 months' time. This will take time. I don't see this de-escalating. We hold on to our positions, hold on to our ally, the Bhutanese. I think one of the Chinese things that the Chinese were testing was, if you apply pressure on Bhutan, maybe they will separate themselves from India and try cutting a deal with them. That hasn't happened. Secondly, Trump himself, the joint statement came after the face-off. Don't forget, PM's meeting with Trump was on 26th.
Yes.
This thing started on the 16th June. This joint statement has so many China-specific elements in it. And now if you see, Trump has ratcheted up the patrolling in that area in the South China Sea. He's also announced arms to Taiwan.
That's right.
So the Americans have changed their approach to China. So the Chinese may have overplayed their hand. So give them space. Keep the rhetoric down. Slowly they will withdraw.
So they slowly will withdraw. Let them blow off some steam. Keep it moderate. Let them just work itself out, and that's how it will happen. But importantly, you've said that it's not going to de-escalate anytime soon. It may actually take a while because Bhutan is also involved. General Shankar Prasad, if you were military advisor right now, I mean, we're hoping that it's going to be a diplomatic, solution. What would you tell the government right now, sir?
like to tell the government and the nation that the situation is very serious. We need to be fully prepared. Our military needs to be told that you will not succumb in any manner. The nation is behind you. We'll provide you what the wherewithal you need, and you keep an aggressive stance, but don't trigger the first bullet. Let the Chinese fire the first bullet. But be fully prepared for any escalation that the Chinese may do. I want to make another different point. You see, today, what is India's concern? India's concern is to fight terrorism on our western border. This activity of China could also be linked to our deflecting to our main objective. The main objective being to destroy terrorism on the western border. Chinese, being allies of our neighbors in the west, are trying to deflect our thinking from demolishing terrorism to the current issue. Don't forget this as well. So while we need to be very strong where we are, militarily there should be no weakness shown, but we will not take the first step.
Okay.
As far as our primary objective is concerned, to fight terrorism, there should be no shortfall in that.
Okay.
There should be, military should be told, and our chief has said already, and the air chief has said,
absolutely,
we are quite prepared for a 2.5 front escalation if required.
Yes.
So play our game very carefully, watch it carefully. While diplomatically it may resolve, it may not resolve. While the American closeness to India is irking China, while the economy is one more issue, while the American Navy is another issue, while South China Sea is another, all very complex matters.
Okay.
But while these complex matters are there, we need to be very cautious to say we are not weak.
Okay.
We will handle this.
I think
we will not fire the first bullet.
Okay, so
but we will not divert from our primary objective of fighting terrorism.
Tread carefully, tread softly, but carry a heavy stick appears to be the prescription from today's discussion, certainly. KC Singh, General Shankar Prasad, Professor Chinoy and Anand, thanks so much for joining us on our first discussion here on News Today. It isn't going to de-escalate anytime soon, but hopefully there's going to be no longer a military aspect to what's happening. Hopefully it will be the diplomats who've taken over and this issue will de-escalate, because the one thing we can all agree on is this is no joke. It's a serious situation there on the India-China border. Welcome back. The Tamil Nadu filmmakers are up in arms. It's a cinema crazy state, as you know. Well, as the nation gets set to cope with the implications of the goods and services tax, the EPS government in Tamil Nadu has now rechristened the earlier entertainment tax as a local tax and levied a whopping 58% tax on every single movie ticket. That's right. With 28% GST and 30% local tax, the Tamil Nadu film fraternity is reeling and has now shut down over 1,000 theatres across the state in angry protest. Here's a report.
Closed gates, deserted box office, Tamil Nadu's movie theatres in an abandoned state.
I'm outside Devi Theatre in Chennai, and as you can see, theatre is shut, and like this, over 1,000 theatres across Tamil Nadu are shut, protesting against the state government's corporation tax, the entertainment tax, which has been rechristened as corporation tax, which is a huge 30% tax. This over and above the GST of 28%. This has definitely affected the film industry.
The government's defense is clear. The entertainment tax is in accordance with the constitution. Local tax will be used for development and the tax is not listed under GST. But movie makers are equally adamant, demanding to know why a local tax has been levied when GST is already being charged. Worse still, why is the movie industry being used as a backdoor for tax mechanism?
GST problem we have honored, we have to understand. But this problem, central government has to interfere and solve it. State government, just for the indirect benefits, they should not force us to do this.
If we go to the film industry as a whole, the huge black money available in Tamil Nadu is only in 3 sectors. One is politics, second is liquor, the third is the film.
Under fire, the EPS government claims that the decision to implement an additional 30% over 28% of GST was notified on the 28th of June. Movie makers say that they only found out about this on the 30th of June, hours ahead of the GST rollout. Kollywood has united to save the Tamil Nadu movie industry.
It's not right for me to speak alone. The whole industry is gathering together and they are going to speak together as one voice.
With a massive 500 crores riding on movies in theatres right now, producers are at their wits' ends. Viewers too have been deprived of their staple movie diet.
At this point, the consumer has actually realized in the last 2 days, I'm not here as a movie person, I'm here as a common person, And to me, I never thought about giving 120 rupees as a ticket price till yesterday. Then I realized, wait a minute, I've been paying tax on every tax-free movie for all these years. Nobody has really been on the side of the people. The so-called governments have not been siding with the people.
There are many who are worried about paying extra money for the tickets, but also the film producers and theatre owners are worried about GST mixed with entertainment tax. Will the government act is the big question now.
As Kollywood faces off with the EPS government, the larger question remains, is Tamil Nadu setting a precedent for other states to find a backdoor tax mechanism to beat the GST acts? With Priyamvada in Chennai, Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining us live from Chennai this evening on News Today, KS Geeta, member of the ruling AIADMK in Tamil Nadu, also Venkat Subba, who is a well-known film producer who's also live with us. Mr. Venkat Subba, as the affected party in this entire controversy with, hundreds of cinema theatres downing their shutters today, this is a very serious issue because you've got the owners of theatres affected, you've got thousands, lakhs, if not millions of fans who are affected by what is going on right now. And the issue appears to be fairly simple. It doesn't appear to be complicated at all. It is about a former entertainment tax that is being allowed to continue post the imposition of GST, adding a 58% burden on every single cinema ticket. What are your expectations from the Palanisamy government at this point of time? We have a member of the AIADMK listening as well. State your point, Mr. Subba.
Yeah. Nothing like expectation or anything. As you said, everything is clear. Everyone knows the problem, solution also. Only thing is, really, our government says we don't have money for municipal development. We have no other option but to tap you. It's a very one line they are saying for the past 7 hours.
Right.
In spite of all representation, they say we don't have money, we have to tax you. Central government says we have one tax, one nation, so you have to tax you. So we have to listen. As you said, industry is also adamant in your introduction. No, we are not adamant. We are only crying. It is not even agitation.
Okay.
It is not even we are just crying.
You're pleading.
See, you are talking about, pleading. What is it? It's not even an agitation. There is no protest. There is no agitation. There is no word war. Nothing is happening. We are just pleading.
Okay.
But there is no response so far. We still expect something to happen tomorrow.
Okay. KS Geeta, they say this is oppression. They say the centre says GST, no other tax. But the Tamil Nadu government, they say this is a betrayal. That entertainment tax which was imposed on them before GST should have been done away with, like Telangana and Andhra and other states have done post GST. But Tamil Nadu has come up with this excuse and imposed a municipal tax saying we need the money. Is that fair? What is the way out, Ms. Geeta?
I don't think so. The tax that has been introduced by the Tamil Nadu government, 30%, is fair. It is very unreasonable when all the other states, Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra and Telangana, have done away with the entertainment tax. And when we say it's one country and one nation and one tax, I don't know why suddenly these people are the nth hour on the 30th of June to bring in this as a backdoor tax. I don't know if these administrators in the AIADMK, though I am a member, if our party is doing something wrong, the administrators, it is madness on their part to do this, because the common man's entertainment is only the movie, and yet so many thousands of people are going to be affected, whether it's the industry,
is this simply
the theatre
about corruption
owners,
in
the
that
theatre
case?
workers.
This appears to be a situation where the government wants to control the Tamil film industry.
Tamil Nadu,
they want a handle on the industry, and that's why they want to tax them.
Let me talk.
Yes.
Yes. No, this is always in Tamil Nadu. These ministers bring about some tax so that those people will take bags of money to go give it to them.
Correct.
And then, the bargaining takes place. What kind of development is going on in Tamil Nadu? There is zero development. And, there are 75,000 crores of money is being looted in the sand mafia and in the other sand mafia. All that money can be taken for development
ridiculous.
when there is only one country and one tax.
Okay.
And already they are being taxed 28%. I think what the Tamil Nadu government has done is absolute nonsense.
No, but what kind of pressure is the OPS faction willing to put on the government to actually get this going, man? It's okay to say all these things, but what kind of pressure is going to be brought to bear? I mean, after all, you belong to the same party that is not moving on this issue.
I'll talk whatever I can say. I'm supporting the people. Just because my party is doing something, I don't accept it or do I support it. I am with the common man. I am with the industry, and I am an industrialist myself. I am a distributor myself.
Yes.
And I know what is the pains that the distributors and the producers go through to produce a movie. And you know, poor guys, some of them have released a movie last week, and some of the movies are doing well, and suddenly the theaters have shut down. What lot of money, and you know what kind of interest those poor producers pay.
Mr. Venkata Subba, Mr. Venkata Subba, you've got the EPS government basically telling you that the municipalities need money, there is no money for development, etc. You've got a person from the OPS faction of the same party saying that this is definitely about money bags. They totally understand your situation.
No, I'm
the
not
ruling
from
party
the
is
OPS
split
faction.
into two.
Please stand. I stand corrected.
No, you're saying that the ruling party is split into two. So, you know, it doesn't appear that anybody is listening to you and the cinema producers and the industry, Mr. Subba. No wonder you're begging these people.
No, once again. Even, see, ADMK party is 2 or 3 factions.
Yeah.
Even in our industry, trade bodies are into 2-3 factions. When a problem comes, we are united and we are presenting in a united way. Like that, our Geeta, our distributor come ADMK, is very kind enough to understand the problem. We wish people like Geeta should be there in the discussion panel or decision panel.
No, Geeta, quick response to that before I wrap up. Can you be part of the discussion panel? Is there a way for that to happen?
No.
I don't know. We should understand where
people like me will never be called because we are very straightforward.
That's the problem. That's where the divisions
are. So
are.
I will never be called for any of the discussions because even Modi ji. No. It's not the divisions. They don't want straightforward people in all political parties.
Okay. That's a sad note to end this discussion on, but at least a voice of support for the Cinema Owners Association and the producers who, like Mr. Venkata Subba said, are pretty much pleading. They're not protesting, they are pleading with folded hands saying, please understand our situation. KS Geeta, Venkata Subba, thank you very much for joining us on this small discussion here on News Today. Moving on, he's a global terrorist, but he roams freely in Pakistan like a VVIP protected celebrity. Syed Salahuddin, chief of the Hizbul Mujahideen, has been shielded by Pakistan, even as the United States joined India in isolating Islamabad over its terror sponsorship. And now he has admitted on camera his role in spreading terrorism in India.
Syed Salahuddin, chief of the Hizbul Mujahideen, president of the United Jihad Council, designated a global terrorist by the United States of America just a week ago. Salahuddin is not just roaming around as a free man, being treated as an honored guest by Pakistani netas.
कश्मीर में कोई आज़ादी नहीं है। मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है आपसे, आप अपने नाम के साथ सदर कश्मीर जरूर लिखें, मगर उसके साथ आज़ाद ना लिखें।
Even after the US State Department's action, Pakistan had sought to defend Salahuddin, calling America's action against an individual fighting for Kashmir unjustified. A stand reiterated by the Pakistani Prime Minister's advisor. In India, the government has claimed vindication, while the opposition has called it a litmus test for the Modi administration.
As far as our stand is concerned relating to Syed Salahuddin, we have been saying for a very long time that he is directly involved in terrorist activities, organizing them and getting them executed in Indian territory.
This will become the litmus test of whether the joint statement means anything, Salahuddin's designation as a terrorist means anything, or it is mere rhetoric and shooting the breeze.
Despite growing international isolation, Pakistan is finding it hard to give up its favorite and inhuman tool of foreign policy. With Kamaljeet Sandhu and Supriya Bhardwaj, Bureau Report, India Today.
Welcome back to News Today. You're about to watch the story of a 12-year-old in Hyderabad who has both shown the way as well as shamed the government and civic authorities of the city of Hyderabad. This young man you're about to watch was moved by the plight of people who have had accidents and lost loved ones because of potholes on the road that lie there ignored by our civic authorities. Here's the inspirational and shaming story of Ravi Teja, who's filling potholes with his little hands.
He's in class 5, but moved by stories of people who've lost their lives because of civic apathy. 12-year-old Ravi Teja has decided to act. These are visuals of Ravi Teja literally repairing potholes in his locality in Hyderabad. And so Ravi decided to act and show civic authorities how it's done. Even as the state's Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao spends on lavish bulletproof bathrooms and civic authorities remain unmoved, Ravi Teja is a beacon of hope, showing the way to adults and authorities on how, if you have a will, you can make a change. Bureau Report, India Today.
And in case you've missed it, we've got it lined up for you as our image of the day tonight. Absolutely astonishing image if you haven't seen it already. An incident of gross negligence by Air India pilots and crew in a major breach of safety guidelines by the national airline. This flight took off from Bagdogra in Bengal and landed in Delhi more than 2 hours later without any air conditioning working in its cabin. The pilots of the flight were reportedly aware of the situation of the oven that their cabin had turned into, yet chose to take off. Take a look at these images from inside the cabin. They've gone viral, not just all across India, but all across the world. A scary reminder of just how quickly Air India needs to be saved.